The idea of goal setting or having an intention has been the center of focus for the recent programs that I lead. If you want to get to a destination, you need a roadmap that indicates how far to get there and what route to take. In order to have that information, you need to know the absolute destination. Often this becomes a to-do list or a bucket list or an avoidance exercise because we don't really know what we want and we're not really sure how we would even get there. Today with Compassionate Living, we're going to explore connection with others with a desire to reach out to help, but we're going to go beyond that. We're going to talk about listening to the needs of the others and not our wants for the other. And through this exploration, we can then look at the skills and advantages we may have to achieve the goals they're indicating to us. Charlene and I have been talking with the Moyo family in Malawi and what some of their needs have been. And today we explore how hearing their needs and bringing focus and clarity to their situation has provided us with a means to reach out to others who can help. This is an interesting discussion as we move past emergency and urgency decisions into long-term change and collaboration. How can we make a difference, and when do we know the right direction or opportunity? This is where our goals will lead the way. You're listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell. This is sponsored by the Cape Breton Tea Company, as well as Dance Debut Inc. And please welcome my sister back to the show, Charlene Waines.
Hi, Michelle.
Glad to have you here. Oh, this is, I think this is going to be one podcast that I'm really looking forward to because so much change has happened since the last time you and I talked and shared, and it's such an exciting time. Should we dive into the affirmation cards first? Because I know once we start talking, it'll be off and running.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Okay, so I pulled today from the spine deck, from the affirmations for the body and biofield card deck. For those people that it's first time listening to the podcast, then this is on my website in the shop. You can find the deck of cards, but I've pulled from the spine deck. And the picture today is
Ooh, that's
hearts
nice.
in both directions, and it's kind of got a womanly kind of figure on it, but it's got vibrant green, blue, blacks, and a little bit of pink in it. And it's for thoracic 4. Thoracic 4 is there's duality to living. The obvious may be too easy, and the less obvious may be the richness. Expand your duality through breath and reflection. And it's the note of F. I'm chuckling just inside because before we started the podcast, Charlene and I were going through a few things and breath came up as part of that. And duality is definitely a part of our conversation. So I think it was a good card choice. Okay. I wanted to also mention about thoracic 4, a couple of things. It is the note of F, and F can be for the heart chakra, but it also can be for thoracic 4 on the spine, but also C4, which is up in the kind of the middle of the neck. For thoracic 4, when we're looking at duality, it's actually bringing us to miraculous and about creation. So that's also exciting today. And it involves the lung and the gallbladder. So as we're talking about the breath, it's really important to make sure that deep breath is always happening to keep everything open. And the last part I want to share is that the shoulders and the muscles between the ribs, anterior serratus, are a part of thoracic 4. So this where be kind of if you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, or you've experienced challenges, it'll show up in shoulder challenges with movement, rotation, strength, the ability to lift. And so sometimes just thinking about how am I bringing richness in, how am I looking for those miraculous times in my life, how are they going to help and support me? And that might be a way to lighten the weight on the shoulders.
Completely a sidestep, but the French horn is also the F instrument, which is my instrument that I played as well. And it's just like, yeah, wow, that's amazing. Very on point.
Yeah. Yep. So it might inspire you to go pick that instrument back up today.
Polish it.
Polish it. Okay. So let's dive into the tea. For those first time on the podcast, I always try to start with an affirmation and also to bring in a focus for us. but then also to bring in the tea. And you may have brewed a
Mm.
different cup of tea, but Charlene and I have been focused on the mission for change. She's showing it just if you can see there. The mission for change community tea. I have to say it slowly.
Has
Um,
this beautiful color, and it smells amazing.
yeah,
It's got a lot of orange undertones. At least that's what I pick up. I love the orange.
and Charlene's showing she's got hers in a clear mug, and I've noticed over the last bit that I've moved over to clear and starting to enjoy color. I put mine into a martini
Martini.
glass today,
Awesome.
which is kind of cool. I feel special holding on to it.
Kind of
So,
a 007 sort of take on the whole thing. Hmm.
exactly. All right. And what I wanted to highlight today from the herbs within this is it's a compilation of herbs, quite a few actually in this blend. And not all of the blends that I make have as many herbs involved. But that creates a real big synergy with all the herbs to create community and change. Because that's the theme of the tea. And so in the past episodes, we looked at strawberry mint, we looked at lemon balm and chamomile, and then we looked at hibiscus and rose.
Mm-hmm.
So today I wanted to highlight lemongrass and orange blossom. So you talked about that's the smell that always hits you first is that citrusy
Hmm.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as soon as I opened the package, I noticed the orange, especially. I love it.
yeah. So these two herbs have their own qualities, but what I'm going to share with you today is how those two qualities work together in a synergy on their own. And this is for an opportunity for clarity of purpose and direction. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is addresses our introduction and the need to know where we're going, and well, to take the magnetism of the two herbs and to move us out of paralysis or fear or non-action, which happens for a lot of us when it's the unknown or the fear that we've kind of avoided and we didn't want to step into. So today we want to take that first step into the new direction, the first step towards the goals that we're really looking at. And the combination of these two herbs allows us that opportunity to do that. So
Mm.
we're bringing a really incredible picture. Yeah. So our two herbs today. So lemongrass and orange blossom joining all the others. Cheers to everyone. Oh yeah. This definitely, I just was saying to Charlene before we started, it needed like a little garnish in it just to add that extra little bit of sparkle. But when I sip on it, oh, it's just so rich, I guess is the best way to say it.
I was saying I was already on my second cup before we started, and I keep adding to it. Like, right on.
Pouring some more. Okay, so
I have to
Charlene,
go for a break in the middle of our podcast here. And apology break. Sorry.
need
Uh,
more tea, need more tea.
I keep
So
jotting
let
notes since I want to add to what you've said. It's like, oh man, I'll be on page two.
so let's dive in to updating where we're at with the Moyos and what you were able to discover in this last bit, which wasn't a quick change. You were working for a long time on this possibility, but because people have been purchasing the tea and we've been able to get donations in, we've actually
Mhm.
been able to go past crisis into actually getting to some of those goals that are more long-standing and able to support in a deeper level. I'll
Mhm.
be quiet now.
um, and and it's both it's deeper level, and yet I think from the Moyo families and certainly the women's point of view, it's a monthly crisis because from their point of view, they don't have supplies to deal with their monthly needs, and um, that's that has a huge impact. And if you look worldwide for a lot of women, that affects their ability to go to school. It affects their ability to look after their family. It affects their ability really to function. when they don't have an ability to look after their menstrual needs. And it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. It's something that the phrase period poverty has, I don't know who coined that, but that's something that's now talked about. And that's something that that's been very, very difficult for the Moya women even to approach me to say this is a need, because it's really a taboo subject in so many cultures to talk about that, the time of month for women, and then to talk about the needs that they have and to put that need ahead of the family's need for food, for shelter, for clothing, for medicine. How do you put that need first when you're the mom and put that ahead of the children? It's impossible. And yet somehow you have to deal with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, I started talking well, at first I started researching what are the options other um, than disposable products, because those products are also used in third world countries like Malawi. But I started looking at, are there any options for for reusable products? I had sent a couple of packages of reusable sanitary pads that were actually made locally here in West Kelowna a few years ago, but those were long since destroyed and I think washed away in one of the hurricanes that went through a few years ago. And those were just sent to Maria and Fungi, one of the daughters. So that they didn't have those anymore. So I started talking or researching some different companies, and one of the ones that I'd found is a company called Grace Pads that's um, originated out of Australia, but they they're making the products all in Malawi. It's Malawi women who sew these products, and then they're all bundled in a kit. The thing that I like most about this company is it's about empowering the women in Malawi to look after themselves, to teach each other about women's health, um, and really to be to try to employ more Malawi women as well. The women sew them on, as far as I can understand, on non-electric sewing machines, and they create little hubs in different parts of Malawi to create the products, and then they're bundled in pretty small, like, I don't know if you can, little tubs. So each tub or kit contains, I believe it's five pads, reusable pads, 2 bars of laundry soap, 1 pair of underwear. So they probably need more underwear, but and then a little nylon discreet bag. So if the woman or girl changes the pad because she's at school or she's in a market or something, she can put the soiled pad into this little waterproof carry bag and bring it back home without anybody really knowing what it is. And if they know what it is, it's still discreet. And then they have these little bright pink Grace pad buckets that with the lid that can be used both to wash the pads in, and then they can be draped over top to dry them. So they're up off the ground, um, but they can really be put in a more discreet place, whether it's in the home or in under the bed if they have a raised bed, or someplace where it's away from everybody's viewing and more culturally sensitive and all of this. So I started talking with Grace Lagani. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce the name because it's all over chat. Probably in March. It was a little bit after Hurricane Freddie, which was in February of 2023, saying, I hope to have money soon to try and start buying these for the family. And we've had all these health crises all over the year and haven't bought them. But I started the conversation back then, and this has been going on now. So how many months is that from that time till now?
Yeah, about
Maybe 8 months.
7, 8 months. Yep.
Started the conversation back then, explaining the family that we've got, you know, 10 or 12 women or girls in the family of the age that needs these, and trying to figure out what's the cost, what's the process, how do we start getting these, and everything. And she said, well, we've got a fund, post Hurricane Freddie fund, because there's such a need in the country now. And I said, well, hold that thought. I'm going to try and get the money to you. And it's been a long conversation. And then I've been back in touch with her off and on. And then in the last month, and in part, absolutely thanks to community and a bigger push for my birthday, where I said to my friends, I don't want something for my birthday, but I do want you to buy tea and bless people that you know with a cup of tea or a pot of tea, and sharing this tea, and the proceeds of that tea are going to help me to accomplish this. And we were able to buy six kits for, there's 12 women and girls that need it at this point in the family. And Grace Pad said, wow, um, that's amazing. You did that fast now, all of a sudden. And I said, well, we've got this fundraiser, and we've accomplished it. And they said, well, how many are there left that you need? And I told them, and they said, well, then, we've got other fundraising that we can cover the rest. So we can do all 12 of the kits.
Amazing.
And they said, and we're going to be traveling to at least the southern end of Malawi at the end of the month. We'd like to travel down and see the family. We want to go and actually see them, not just ship them. And it's like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity. So then it's like, okay, I got to capitalize on this. This is amazing. So I talked to them further. They said they would need help with some of the costs to get down there. So they're going to rent a car, and they'll have accommodation for 2 overnight in a town near the Moyos. I said, okay, we'll work a little harder on our fundraising, and we'll help with some of that cost for you to get down there. And then they're going to go down and talk with the Moyo family and make them a bit of a pilot project for that region, and get some video and some photos of them, which in part will help us to fundraise further to help with getting the family back on their feet from the last couple of years of environmental disasters that have happened in the southern region. And then they're going to look at other people in the villages and the towns around there and in the region, and see what the needs are really in that region, because it's not a region that they've really focused on, from what I understand. And I talked to them specifically about the needs of the family, that this is a family where it's pretty much all women in the family at this point, that are the adults. There's one adult male, Peter, and he's had such difficulty with his health this year that he's just not been able to work. And that these are women that really need some empowerment and employment. So that's something they're also going to talk to them about, and see as a way that they could partner with these women in some way. So that's just amazing to go from, you know, how is there any hope in the future for this family? How do you find that? Where do you look? To we have people driving down in 2 weeks, bringing all of these kits and talking to the family about, is there a way that we can be partners? So yeah, congratulations to community has been a huge part of that. So that's, when you start putting together a bunch of teas, do you anticipate that somewhere around the world lives will be changed? That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo!
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, when's the podcast? What do you mean? It's like, how many days away? So it's hard to wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exciting.
It's very, very exciting. Um,
Hmm.
and to the way that you were able to ask the questions to lead down that road. And that's what I'm hoping people are listening to, because sometimes we don't ask the right questions, or sometimes we decide how people need to be helped or what we think should be better for them. and this was you taking the time to find out what are the needs. Let's put them on the table and then figure out how we can navigate that.
Well, and as I said, it's been very difficult for the women to bring up women's hygiene as a question and as a need, and it would come as a very very subtle um, initial, Charlene, this is, and whichever woman who was on the chat with me, and very, very humble about, I'm really sorry. I'm very sorry to bring this question up to you. And very apologetic about just how difficult a situation the women were in, and that they really had no alternative, that they didn't even have rags available to deal with their issue. They didn't have access to money to go purchase anything, with the floods and the hurricanes and everything, where everything had been washed away. Uh, and they were just so ashamed
Hmm.
to bring it as a concern and a problem,
Hmm.
and didn't know what to do. And so to slowly walk through and say, whatever the problem is, whatever the issue is, don't be afraid. That we're family, we're friends, um, and if I can't help you with it, then that will be my burden, and I'll have to I'll have to come back to you with that burden to say I'm stuck,
Hmm.
and then we'll have to work through that too. But if I don't know that there's a problem, I can't help solve it. And so we've slowly worked through that, because from time to time I do have to say, wow, that's, I appreciate that you brought that to me, and now I have to turn around and say, I'm so sorry. At this point, I either don't have the resources, I don't have the knowledge, I don't know what to do with that, but at least I know. And now I'll see what I can either learn or do or find out or something. But if I don't know, I can't do anything. But it takes a lot of time and trust. And I think that's one of the things that people today are in such a rush, and they'll start off, well, people like to have their collection of trophies. So it's nice to have all their medals hanging. It's nice to have all the trophies hanging. And they rush from one thing to the next thing, um, and then they can tell all their stories and all of their successes. Um, and that, I mean, there's nothing against that, but like in this case, um, one thing that I'm constantly reassuring them is that I'm not leaving. You know, I'm not I'm not saying, well, okay, I was successful 6 years ago. I achieved the goal of getting the hippo rollers. We got the hippo rollers, and then they could roll their water. I could have said, hey, I'm going to hang my hat on that success and move on and find some other trophy, something else as my next interest. But I've said, no, this is this is my interest and my passion, and it's not something I'm about to abandon. And I think people abandon a lot. Um, People are used to the quickness, the fast pace, and just uh, taking whatever the item of interest, or the, you know what's on topic today, the top 10, um, and if it's not fashionable or not the top 10 list today, then push that aside, and pick what it is that everybody else is into. And that's at the cost of I think the benefits of where you can really be of value. And in this case, we're, 6.5 years later, And it takes perseverance, and it takes those long conversations, and building trust, and doing the research, and finding all these different things. We've gone through hippo rollers. I've certainly gone through a long learning curve learning about gardening. Lord knows I still don't have a decent garden myself, but I've helped learn and research about gardening techniques that they can use there. And they've been successful in applying that there. And I help pass that along. Um, Often they'll tell me symptoms that they're experiencing, and they'll say, Charlene, what is it? I'll say, I'm not sure, but 1 minute and I'll look it up. Um, and we have so much access to information here, and yet they don't have. They certainly, know that we have access to it, and they know that it's much faster and easier for us to get to it. They're certainly not naive to that. They're not naive to knowledge. They just don't have the access. And then in some cases, I'll say, well, obviously this is something that you know more about. I know nothing, say, about malaria. They know everything about malaria. Lord knows, sadly, um, they all experience it, or dysentery, different things. And yet here, unless we go to uh, travel to these places, it's not something we would experience ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in this case, this opportunity with Grace Pads is, a blessing that I never would have anticipated, because we were envisioned that, our next big goal is the house. But I've also talked to them that, wow, if there's an opportunity for the women in this family to have some security of employment, even a small bit of employment, I really don't know what this opportunity even involves for them. That may free us up as sort of the peripheral fundraising, to be able to focus better on saying, wow, if they've got a little bit more security themselves, we can finally like get
That
our teeth
house.
into that house,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that we've been trying so hard to get to. But there's so many other things that keep jumping up, and without them having any other security and any other um, ability to look after some of these crises, this would just be awesome if they could.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And when you talked about, I'm not really letting you talk. This
Oh,
is the
it's all
thing I've been,
good. You don't need to
apparently
hear me.
this is the thing I've been doing this week. I've been blabbering on and on. Um, One of the things that you brought up from the cards was breath and breathing. And before we started the podcast today, I mentioned to you that one of the things that I'd wanted to mention was taking a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
And people often are afraid to just step in and ask for something. So, for example, with Grace Pads, when I went to purchase them, I could have just purchased the 6, and never engaged in that conversation with Grace at Grace Pads.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or I could have purchased the 6 and asked for the other 6, left it at that. But then I know the needs of the family. And what's the risk to me in asking and engaging in that conversation?
Yeah.
But to do that, you have to take that deep breath and put yourself out there
Mm-hmm.
and say, you know, there's something more, you know. Can I have some of your time? Because number one, I want to tell you a story, and telling the story is important. It's important to not just say I want. It's important to engage in conversation and to engage in storytelling, because really everything is about story, and um, is about people and the background, and not just what can you do for me, but what can I do for you. Because in talking with Grace, she was very interested in hearing the story, and then in hearing how does this work? How do we partner? What does hearing this story motivate in her to now spread into this region and help her accomplish the goals in GracePad, which is empowering the women, sharing sharing their goal to change women's lives and to change it in a particular way, and and how can that build together? So it's not just about me and my goals and mission for change; it's about hers,
Hmm. Yeah,
and then combining that, and then that in turn brings in the Moyos and their needs, and it's a benefit to everyone. So,
exactly.
and it's pretty incredible. And in the end, uh, it's it's not really asking anyone to do something that's hard for them or difficult for them. It's really, it's a break from your stresses of the day. It's like, well, I can hardly wait to get on and, get on top of doing something for this, because this is the break, this is the inspiration, this is the joy time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that takes us to the other part that we wanted to bring people back to is it's lovely to be able to share this story, but then what does it mean for people with their own lives and their businesses or their jobs and how they're satisfied in what they're doing?
Mhm.
So we were talking about and you just said it too, it's that checklist that you have. The vision was to go towards the house to try to get them a house, yet there were
Mhm.
these other pieces, and sometimes when you don't focus, you know what your whole outcome is that you're looking for, and sustainability for them and a vibrant empowered way of living, but then all these other pieces have this way of weaving themselves in it in their own time, I guess, which is, and then being open to that ability to weave in, which is really great.
And a big part of that is to not be patronizing. To as soon as I made this connection and had Grace from GracePad saying what she was doing, my first thing was to tell the Moyo family. It wasn't, well, I'll wait and I'll have this whole piece and then I'll tell them.
Hmm.
It was to engage them and make sure that they were part of it. And they had so many questions. Then the chatter was coming back and forth. It's like, oh, I don't have those answers. I only know that they're coming. Uh, but just a minute, I'll see what I can find out. Um, One of the inspiring things was when I said, there's people, they're coming to visit you, and bless their hearts. But the Moyo family, which is a family of, um, you know, when I have them actually do the head count, I think sometimes they don't count all of the kids and stuff. They'll say, oh, there's about, 15, 16 of us. And it's like, geez, when I count the women and girls, there's 15 or 16, counting the little girls.
Hmm.
But then that's not counting the men and boys. Well, the one man and then the boys and then the little boys. So I start adding and say, pretty sure we're over 20. Um, but their first reaction was, well, how many nights will they be here? And it's been over 40 Celsius there. Uh, they said we can all sleep outside on the ground, and they can have what's they're really a one room building that they're all sleeping in, which has a roof that leaks, you know, walls that are not complete. But this is what they're in now. This is their home.
Hmm.
They're willing to exit it, sleep outside with whatever could befall them, so that these visitors that they don't know, they're only trusting in me that these are good people. They're going to give it up for these people. Say, wow. I mean, who does that? Do any of us say someone's coming to visit? Yeah, we'll sleep on the ground outside, and you guys take our house.
Yeah.
We don't do that. And I said, no, no, no. These people. They're going to stay in an accommodation in a village, and drive down to you in a car, and they want to learn about you. They want to talk to you and enjoy your company, but they're not putting you out of the little bit of shelter you've got. No, the, thank you, but no. but how gracious that this is their first reaction is, and they're like, well, what did they need? We're not, we don't have, what do we serve them? We don't have anything, and they're worried about how can they be good hosts. This is their first concern, and we're trying to tell them, no, you know, they're coming to try and learn how that they can work with you to help you, and their concern is, how can we be nice to them?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's very, very inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that other people see that, even if you don't have anything, you could jump in and see where is there a need, and how can I ask questions to see what is it they need, and how can I help? Even if I don't have resources myself, maybe it's knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe it's before this podcast we were talking about a dear friend from Cape Breton, Pius McIsaac. I mean, he shared music,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe it's sitting down and playing music with someone who needs or wants that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's lots of people, or someone that just needs an ear, just that you listen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this family, and helping and looking after them, and promising them that, no, I'm not abandoning you. I love you, and I will be there.
Mm-hmm.
And they give so much back, and they listen and they share, and I learn from them, and I love that. I get empowered from that. So they give back, and I reassure them that there's value both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see someone who loves music, like Pius loved music, you could see that, a sort of Pied Piper, if there's kids rallied around him and he played for them, and the kids or families got up and danced, the joy that the people got from listening to him playing, he got the joy
Mm-hmm.
from playing for them. It's reciprocal.
Yeah.
So you have to find the thing where you get that reciprocal thing
Yeah.
back to you.
Yeah. The other
And then you
thing Pius was
abandon.
also really good about was inspiring up and coming people.
Mm-hmm.
And he would take them under his wing and he would highlight them, he would pull them forward. So where they couldn't face the fears themselves, he was able to pull them along and inspire them to do more and be more. And
Yeah.
that was evident at the event last night, as people were talking about the ways that Pius got them playing music or introduced to new musicians, or even if he wrote a song for them. Because what a gift is that, to
Mm-hmm.
have somebody write for you. Yeah.
And that all comes back to the idea. I mean, the name that we came up with for this tea, community, right? Bringing people together and celebrating being social, and
Yeah.
sharing together. And how can you take that togetherness and make that helpful to each other,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And it's not always about money. In the case of buying the tea, you're probably going to buy tea or coffee or a Coke or water or whatever. You're gonna drink something. I mean, you need to survive. So in our case, if you buy this and you pass it along to someone because you know that they enjoy brewing a pot of tea, then proceeds from this are, I mean, in this case, have been life changing so far, and we're so excited about what else it can do,
Hmm.
right? And that's the whole concept of community. And in the case of the fundraiser that you were telling me about, Pius, last night, and the opportunity to share music, it's the same idea. Like,
Yeah.
that ability to continue and to celebrate and to share what um, what will help others long term is so inspirational, and it's the same concept.
Hmm.
Amazing, uh, and it's so fun to see what that can do, and how that can help other people,
Hmm.
and so so happy that doing something like that for my birthday, because I've seen other Facebook fundraisers. It's like, well, people can
Yep.
do it for that. Then I'm asking for my birthday.
Yep.
And, you know, thank you to my birthday suppliers who said that they wanted tea. And now we have these women that are going to
Yep.
have their lives changed because of it.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So I'd like to take us into how people can apply this back into their businesses, their jobs that they have. And
mhm,
you and I had talked about a kind of a different direction, but I'm just thinking about how sometimes when you're working with a group of people, you don't have that cohesiveness in the office. Everybody's got their projects that they're working on, they've got their own goals, but that cohesiveness doesn't always happen. And tea is one way because you
mhm,
can stop at the water cooler, you can have the tea break,
mhm.
you can go for a walk together to have a conversation, but you also have this ability to check in with each other on a project that's not related to work specifically, but could be related in that you do it together as a group. And some people, will go do a run or a walk somewhere,
Yep.
fundraising for a different initiative. But that does provide you with a different way of understanding your colleagues and learning about how to work together on projects and how to see each other's perspectives that's not related to the goal of finishing a project or getting the work done. And we wanted to bring that around in the conversation today so people start to really think about how they're living each day and how they're gaining satisfaction from the end of the day. They've given their all to a company or to an organization or to a job that sometimes turns into a job more than a passion. And how do you get that joy to come back out? How can you do that?
And really how you just described it, it is one way that if maybe if your job has some maybe repetition or mundaneness or however you might describe it, uh, whether you tie it into the job or you say, well, you know, after work on these couple of days or this schedule, this is what I'm going to do. Or as a couple of colleagues that you say, you know, let's have an offshoot project or let's have a social initiative. And there are some companies that do take on social initiatives, and in doing that, they can boost their business, in the community, as well as partnering it with social change. And that's a big thing. Some companies that are stuck, that we're not moving forward. Maybe we don't, our particular line of business doesn't have maybe a positive social swing, doesn't have a positive marketing side. How can we make that change? Um, Look at what side of your business you can connect to some element of social change or some community group or some personal interest that you've got or something like this, where you say, well, even if it's not connected, we're going to connect them. All of a sudden we're going to say, maybe our our company, makes t-shirts or coats or whatever. And now this year we're going to take on the homelessness situation, and we're also going to be making coats for the homeless. And now we're connecting those things, and now this is our passion, and ah, and that takes off. And now, even though maybe you just found sewing to be, sore shoulders, now all of a sudden, now that you're sewing for a purpose and an interest, and maybe you've got, the ticker board on the wall about how many that you've, for every so many that you make for profit, there's one that goes to the community or whatever it might be. Or maybe you collect used clothes. I mean, whatever the example might be, it's easy to somehow create passion if that's the interest that you take. And if you're trying to market it and you connect your social enterprise or your business enterprise to whether it's a social enterprise or a social interest, and connect those and start making your marketing and your hashtags and your all of those things start to um, to interweave, and you start to bring those things up in your business and your networking opportunities, you start to make new connections. So where uh, your your business partners used to be just this one group, all of a sudden, where you have these new community partners because it's connected to your new social interest or your charitable interest or nonprofit, whatever it might be, those may give you new business opportunities and business partners that you never anticipated because your vision was this for your business. It was very linear,
Hmm.
but now, you've got this new hobby that's completely in your mind originally thinking it was unrelated. It's amazing how often you can connect those things. You know, who knew, that cars and, playing the flute could be related. But come talk to me.
Yeah, like,
Somehow I will relate those two things.
yeah.
And now you'll have an entirely new market for your business because we've connected those things and you can increase your business.
Hmm.
And but when you do that, you don't increase it by saying, at your next music practice, guess what? Here's my business. Here's all my business cards. I mean, it's not like you do it today and your business changes tomorrow. It's building trust. It's starting those conversations. And as they trust you in this phase, they learn about you in this other thing,
Hmm.
and everything evolves together. But it does evolve and it does change, and everything increases.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
your 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 joy and happiness in doing a positive thing comes out, in what you're doing, but the increase in your marketing and your business and everything that flows from that increases. I mean, look at you know where you've gone in your business. You know the evolution it's taken, and each step, and all the connections. If you took the straight line of dance teacher,
And people who are listening are going, wasn't she talking about tea? Yep. When you take that from a dance teacher, exactly. Yep.
you know, and then you try and draw the, the from that trunk, and then you draw all the branches that go out, and say,
Yeah.
"There's no way they can connect those things." Oh yeah,
Yeah.
watch us.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the thing is, it's all positive, and it all gets stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So that leads us to, since you brought dance in,
Okay.
I always try to finish the podcast off with some kind of movement. And today I was
I
thinking,
didn't even plan that.
I know, it's perfect. Um, but I think that this is a good time for people to think about how they step forward, make that one step that's going to move forward. And we already talked about the orange blossom and the lemongrass as providing the impetus for you to have that initiative. And so, what I would invite people to do is this little exercise, and I'm going to say it, but you might want to take more time with it, in which case you might want to pause the recording and go do the exercise in bits and pieces and then come back to it. But we'll describe it in its state as it is. And I just know when I use this in my energy medicine aspects of what I do, not my dance related or my tea related, this can be really helpful, but you can also dance it forward. So you can step or dance. So I would invite people to find 3 spots on the floor, hopefully that, well, whatever shape, doesn't matter what shape. I was going to say forward in a linear fashion, but no, not necessarily. And you might want to put 3 pieces of paper on the floor so you can actually step onto a spot, or you might have some spot on the floor. My carpet has squares, so I could actually step from one square to another square. And what I would invite you to do is identify which part is for the present, which part's for the past, which part's for the future. And then if you step into the present, stand on that spot and notice what it feels like as you stand there. So you could notice if your knees are locked, If the weight's back into your heels, that means be pretty tight. Or maybe you're kind of into the center of the foot and you can notice it's kind of buoyant. Or you might be forward and gripping your toes. So that just tells you where there might be some stress. If you're in the middle, that's when it's kind of calm and settled, grounded. Some people would explain it that way. And then as you stand there, I just want you to think about how you've been celebrating the successes of the gifts that you bring to the world every day. And sometimes we don't acknowledge that, so we take our time to quickly find the next thing that needs to be fixed or criticized. So this is a place for us to just stand in our success. And then I would like you to look over to where you put the past and think about the past with regret, guilt, or lack of confidence. And as you're standing in that spot, notice how the body shifts and what it's feeling like. And you may notice that you kind of wobble on your feet, a little bit unsteady, or you may notice that you shift from the back to the front where the toes are gripping. And you may notice that you kind of start to feel a little bit heavier. And as you notice those feelings, just think about how you've been acknowledging your successes and the gifts that you bring. And if you've been burdening them with that regret, guilt, or lack of confidence. And now I'd like you to look over towards the future and explore the future using those same feelings: regret, guilt, or lack of confidence. And as you're looking over to the future and you're seeing how you're going to carry them over there, how are you feeling about your possibilities for tomorrow? So I know for me, when I start to do that, it's almost like it's like a backpack goes on my shoulders, and it's like the suitcase is behind me, holding on to all the things I haven't let go of, that heaviness that's going to do the pull. And I'm thinking about, is that what I want to take into my future? So now let's change our focus around. And as you stand in today, consider all your wins with connection and collaboration, where you've identified goals and dreams and you've taken action towards them. And now notice, maybe your breath is going to deepen. Maybe your neck starts to lengthen and your posture goes a little straighter. And just notice anything else that comes to mind or that you notice about the body and where tension may have been, if it's shifted. And now, if you look back over to your past and consider your successes and your losses, but how you've been empowered by your journey of the past, how that makes you feel. And you could step over to the past if you want. So again, if you need to stop the recording, go ahead and step over there. But just for now, just you're looking there. And then I want you to turn to look to the future. And how does it feel to know that you've got your successes, maybe some losses, but they're supporting you in your move forward? And notice how you're empowered by that current journey. And then how does it feel to think about stepping into that future? And then I would invite you to step over to the future. And without looking at the past, without looking at the present, standing in that future, look out around you and notice what it feels like to now look to what's next. And some will call that face your fear and walk right through it. And some can be just to take those successes and empowerment and the learning that you've had and take it as a win and take it forward. And I'm hoping as you're standing in that future, you now realize how many more possibilities are there. And some of the conversation we've had today and the way Charlene's described things that you can do and how you can do it, that might open up some new possibilities. It might be a great time to do a little bit of writing, just to jot some things down, anything that comes to mind. And again, notice where your breath is. And if there's a nice deep breath in there, you feel like you're rooted to your feet, and you know you're home. You know you've come with all of the pieces, not critiqued and not judged, but actually used for the power that they have given you, and that is possible with them. Okay, so if we go from there and we consider our tea campaign and the same vision with it, We know that the tea is leading the way for the Moyo family, and we know it's leading the way for people to think differently about connection and collaboration. So, Charlene, do you want to share how people can either do a donation to the project or how they can locate the tea?
They can get it on Cape Breton Tea Company's website, and I believe you'll have the link.
capebretontea.ca.
Okay. Um, if you're in the Okanagan Valley, I have the teas, and I can meet with you, get with you, connect with you. Michelle, you still have tea in Cape Breton?
I have tea here, yes.
Okay.
It will be
I
on
didn't,
all the tables going into the holiday season. Yeah.
I, I didn't know if you still had some there or if I had it all. Um, and if you've already bought the tea and you're still wanting to contribute, you can contact me directly through Facebook at Charlene Waines, just my name, or you can go to our GoFundMe, which is Mission for Change, and I believe you also have the link below in the podcast for that.
Yeah. And that's Stephen Moyo's Mission for Change GoFundMe.
Thank you. And thank you very much to everyone who's helped and contributed, not just in this last number of months where we've had our community available, but over the years. It's certainly absolutely that this family, we would have lost this family. These lives would be gone without you. So um, this family has a reason and a purpose, and there's kids with hopes and dreams, and glints in their eyes and big smiles, and there's women that are so excited to be looking forward to Grace Pads arriving, and Grace Pads is excited to be looking at a new place in Malawi that they can reach out to and see what is the opportunity and what is the empowerment, what is the possibility for these women that never anticipated this possibility before, even girls being able to stay in school where maybe they never would have stayed in school before. I mean, that's life changing, absolutely. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to Cape Breton Tea Company for sure. And Michelle, I really appreciate everything that you're doing to look at my dreams and my my other family that I love so dearly and taking it on as part of yours too. So I love you for that and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Now you'll make me cry. It's lovely to do this together with you. It really is a pleasure. Um,
Absolutely.
so thank you to everyone for listening. We hope you feel empowered by this podcast. And I just want to remind you that each podcast is set up for transformation and the opportunity for you to be nurtured and feeling balanced by the end of the podcast. I hope that you enjoy the exercise we gave you today and you can take it forward and perhaps with a good cup of tea and maybe with a couple of friends playing around with it. Our season has several publications, so you will see a release that talks about some of the work that I do at the start of the month. I share the work that others are doing through the middle of the month, and Charlene and I always share at the end of the month what's happening next, and we're very happy to do that. So thank you for joining us. This is Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, wishing you the courage to face your transformation for the well-being of those around you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye.